Hey, welcome back everybody to Fandom Pop. Today, I'm going to be talking about a game titled The Outer Worlds. And if you have been keeping track of this channel, you will know that I recently put out a video titled My Top 10 Games. And on that list, towards, the very top, were two games titled Fallout 3 and Mass Effect 2. Which is why I was very excited when I heard that the creators of Fallout New Vegas are creating a game that's essentially Fallout meets Mass Effect. So I was like, oh, I should probably play that. But Obsidian, the people behind this game, I've played a decent amount of their games. They created the South Park game. They created one of the Knights of the Old Republic game. They specifically, for a while, seemed like the kind of people you make to make your sequel that you don't want to make. Essentially, while the main team goes off and does shit, this game is like, hey, let's make a sequel to Knights of the Old Republic. Hey, let's make a sequel to Fallout 3. We'll just take all the shit that you guys had and we'll just make you a new one. How about that? But considering Fallout 3 had like pretty bad game design mechanics, Fallout New Vegas has been revered almost as the much better game. Whereas when the game came out, it was just like, oh, this is a Echo Fighter shadow clone of the original Fallout 3. Whereas nowadays people are like, nah, fuck Fallout 3. No, Fallout New Vegas, bro. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was playing this game, it did pluck a lot of those friendly feelings, a lot of those familiar interests, and it didn't necessarily feel like Fallout and Mass Effect. If anything, like a lot of the menus, a lot of the style choices felt more like in the vein of BioShock, and I would probably compare it closer to Mass Effect Andromeda in terms of the way you are exploring the universe and the way you are collecting these teammates and whatnot. It feels much more similar to those games than like Mass Effect 2. Just because you get squad mates and you're the captain of a ship doesn't mean it's gonna feel like Mass Effect. But essentially what the game is about is you are a colonist who has been in hibernation on this big mega ship. Again, shades of Mass Effect Andromeda here. And you have been woken up by a mad scientist. He says your entire colony is asleep eternally, and on the outside world there is basically a corrupt government society taking over the new galaxy where everyone's at, and you have to not only take out this giant mega corporation or side with them, but you have to bounce off this mad scientist guy. There's 1,000 other things going on. You gotta collect crewmates, you gotta fight the big baddies while also, just living within this corrupted universe. It's a fun galaxy out there. And there's not a whole lot of big, dense Western RPGs like this that are coming out all the time anymore, man. Like, it felt good to finally get a refreshing big world with this big, elaborate dialogue system, a lot of little things to be thrown around in every corner, and then you're just picking up quests. You're running into strangers, being like, hey, what do you want? Okay, I'll take that. And basically every time you step into a village, you're like, oh, I guess I'll do those other 10 things I need to do here. Whereas Fallout New Vegas really did kind of feel like a very small location on terms of this. Fallout New Vegas was very much, you have your central map with the big quests, and then every time you stray from that, you might just get fucked up by some death claws or whatever else. If you venture too far, it's just, it's not a big exploration. Whereas this game, you have essentially different ports on different planets, and you have to go from town to town to town. Essentially every map has like 2 or 3 towns and a big world to explore in between that. It's not as dense of exploration when you're just walking around in the middle of nowhere. You're probably not going to stumble into as many things as Fallout New Vegas, but every time you're in a town, every time you are, essentially in front of people, there's 1,000 things to do. This game is much heavier in dialogue than probably any Fallout game. And that's good because the dialogue is so fucking good. I remember a script I wrote back in the day was how the dialogue system in Fallout 4 essentially ruined that game. Whereas you basically had to be 2 or 3 characters, not even. Whereas this game, you have unlimited dialogue options. If you want to be a fucking idiot, there are dialogue options to be a fucking idiot. If you want to be a guy who's good at computers, the dialogue will cater to that. It's an actual role-playing experience. And whenever you're talking to a character, you essentially have this special facial animation sequence where you're kind of zoomed in on their face, and they actually have expressions. They actually have, decent lip synchronization. it's like nothing I've ever played before on terms of that. And I think that's probably the strongest thing going about this game. And there's a couple other really fun game dynamics it throws in there. Essentially, I was jumping off of cliffs as I do in these type of games. Every time I jump off a cliff, I just feel my legs breaking. And then the game out of nowhere is like, yo, you got a flaw. You're flawed. You keep jumping off of cliffs. Would you like a perk for falling off of cliffs a lot? Essentially, imagine the perks from Fallout, and it's like, you suck. How about you suck even more, but you have a nice bonus for it? And I was like, okay, I guess I'll avoid cliffs a lot more if I'll get a perk for it. That's fun. And when you level up at first, it'll level up 3 different or so levels at a time, so that way you're not kind of just being spread out all over the place. You can actually kind of get over that initial big hump in the game, because that's going to happen in a lot of these games. It happens in this game if you're assumingly not playing on easy, where you are scraping for ammo, you are just running into hordes of enemies that are just gonna kick your ass, and once you get past that, it's just smooth sailing. But that is one of the most crucial times in the game. That's when you're gonna have to learn the time dilation thing, where you can essentially slow down time. It's kind of this game's answer to the VATS in Fallout New Vegas and 3. And this is one of those moments where it's like, okay, if you told me this was a Fallout game, I would have believed you. If you were like, yeah, this is Bethesda Fallout 2000, it takes place in the very long alternative future, yeah, I would have believed you. The combat is nothing to brag about. You're gonna hit kind of this brick wall on terms of a lot of things in this game. The combat, after a while, you're just gonna blow everything up, and you're gonna be like, okay, you're gonna get all these other cool weapons and armors, and you're just kind of like, okay. Like, I don't necessarily like when weapons break in video games, and this has this whole system, but there are games like Breath of the Wild which have kind of turned me on to that fact, but it didn't click with this game. I was like, I'd rather just have my weapons stay in my inventory if that's okay. A lot of the RPG stuff in this game, I was just kind of flat out ignoring. After a while there, I wasn't even healing. Like, I don't like the healing items in this game. You also have like this big healing thing that you just stab yourself with. I didn't necessarily enjoy all of those mechanics, whereas Fallout New Vegas and these other games just felt like a more cleaner way of doing that. But this game excels in all these other games on terms of what the story is, what is the style it's going for. Because a lot of these games have this like weird Western flair to them, and they have this exploration sci-fi thing at the same time. Outer Worlds is the first game that feels like it's doing all of that and more. Like, it has like that kind of weird like society propaganda shit of BioShock, and then it's got that, like, remember that one trailer of Mass Effect Andromeda where Johnny Cash is playing, and then you have like the essential space opera bullshit that you would get from a Mass Effect. You combined all those and you have this game, and you walk onto planets and like they're just trippy ass plants and shit, and then you go onto another planet and it's like this esoteric moon, and then you go over here and it's like this weird society where you owe money for committing suicide. That's one of the first things you do in this game, is there's a quest where somebody owes money because they committed suicide. And then you have your companions. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit disappointed in the number of companions you get. I assumed right away I'd be getting like 10, and then it's like, oh, I have like 5 or 6, and one of them's throwaway. That being said, they all have, you know, your usual loyalty campaign missions that you go on with them, and you really get to know them. They have everything I would want from companions. They are super well versed. They have a lot of backstory. They are all fun and interesting, and they will interact with each other throughout the ship. That being said, half the time when I walk up to them, they don't have shit to say. Whenever I try to like give them weird armor or anything, like that's another one of those RPG mechanics where I was just like, whatever, it's not worth the time. And that's the thing, at the beginning of this game, I was just trying to go on a killing spree all by myself, and they were just kind of like my backup people, and I didn't buff out my leadership skill, and then I was just kind of like, oh, you guys are afterthoughts. That being said, the companions, the map, the combat, it all kind of hits this brick wall about 3/4 of the way through the game all at the same time. And what I mean by that is I really do love this game. I think Outer Worlds 2, they'll probably make this bigger, better game, and it's possibly going to be one of my favorite games ever if they hit all their cards right. This game, however, was so amazing at the beginning and enthralled me so much, but towards the later half of the game, and right when I was singing this game's high praises, I was like, yo, Outer Worlds is the fucking game of the year, I slowly started to see, like, the light at the end of the tunnel. I was like, oh, the ride's already almost over. And I like denser games. I like short games that have density. And this has so much more content than, like, a Fallout 4, for example. I like this game more than Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is a great game. This game is greater because the story is so much more put together. It's a lot less messy. It's a lot more seamless. And it doesn't have these big glaring holes in the game. This game is complete and it doesn't have a shit ton of bugs. However, when I started to see my quest list just kind of slowly get shorter, and then I started running into the same dialogue options with all my companions, and then the combat started to feel boring, and then I just kind of was like, okay, I'll do the main quest mission I was avoiding till now, I guess. And then I didn't, and I was like, okay, I guess that's it. Whereas a game like Fallout New Vegas, you beat it, and then you, like, replay it, or you go off and do all the other things you missed, and that's where you're like, oh, holy shit, this game's amazing. Whereas this game, I'm just kind of left standing with my thumb up my ass, and I'm just kind of like, I need more. And I'll probably keep this around for the sake of DLC, and, you know, hopefully whenever I feel like entering this world again, you know, doing maybe the 2 or things I've missed before. I definitely am more interested in an Outer Worlds 2, though. I think Outer Worlds 2, Obsidian has now made a big IP, and they're gonna exploit the fuck out of the Fallout franchise, and I couldn't be more happy. This game is right up my alley. That being said, though, it does have its limits. And I know this is not a review, but if I were to give this game a score, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Very strong 8 out of 10. Anyway, that's what I thought of Outer Worlds. This was my big Christmas game. I loved it. Now we're moving on to January. We got a new year. We got new content that is up in the pipes. And if you guys want me to do videos on anything you're playing, let me know. If you enjoyed Outer Worlds, please let me know down in the comments. There's not a lot of comments down there. Trust me. You can change the tide of the conversation with a single comment. Do it. You have like a good outro like in your head, and then you forget it, and you're just kind of, yeah, this works.
But there's no sense crying over every mistake you just keep